Welcome back. I'm sure you got curious after the first thing, didn't you? You'll be finding them even more in this one. Despite that, don't think it's something nice or lighthearted compared to what you saw previously. It's still just tragedies upon tragedies. However, this time, I'll be telling you a slightly more interesting story. I'm sure you wanted to know what happened to the child's mother after her kid died in the very own restaurant she worked at. Well, to put it in short, she became her own enemy indirectly. She would cause so many things that she would undo if she could, but obviously, it's far too late. It's been years since this whole story happened. She's already dead, and I think you know where she ended up after she died. However, we still have a long way until we get to that, how she died. Allow me to start explaining and telling you the truth. After the incident at the original Splinky's family diner, they shut down the restaurant and destroyed the animatronics, reducing them to scraps. Surprisingly, they managed to cover up the incident quite well. Nobody managed to see it other than the police. Making a funeral for the child and give themselves away, so the only option they had was to dispose of the body and throw it away. This is one of the only sins committed by the actual company itself. You'll see what I mean later. The mother was also fired, so she couldn't say anything to the police, as technically she didn't see anything since she fired. But in reality, she did. This completely broke her. Not only did her own child die, but now she wasn't even able to make a funeral for him or tell the police. Any hope she had left was all gone. The company silently shut down and claimed it was due to budget issues. Keep in mind that after this they would be completely innocent and none of the following incidents would have been their fault. The spirit of the child was floating adrift. As much as he wanted to cry at what he saw, he couldn't. It was just reduced to a soul without a body. He missed his mother so much, and even if he couldn't speak or interact with her directly, he could still enjoy her. However, his feelings for her would soon change. Like most companies, they would try to make a comeback after any incident, simply to keep making more money and to put up with their previous success. This is exactly what Splinky Entertainment did. They tried to make a comeback. I assumed that you would think it'll fail, but would you believe me when I told you it didn't? In fact, it made way more money than the previous diner. Way more, in fact. Let me explain. Using all of the money from the previous establishment, they made a new one with a lot more budget than the previous. The building was so much bigger. It wasn't just a few small rooms now. All of the animatronic characters got redesigns, and even new characters were made. There was Splinky, whose color palette was completely changed from yellow to brown and tan, which was then as an attempt to resemble a dog more. Then there was Mia, who received all these changes. The company didn't want to make her pure white nor brown, as that would be too similar to Splinky, so they had to keep her yellow. Her clothing was made purple instead of black, simply to give her more color. And then we have the new characters. First off is Waldo, a wolf that seems to also be a police officer. Waldo sticks around his cove, conveniently titled Waldo's Cove. His stage, or cove, is next to Splinky and Mia's stage, so the kids can pick whoever owns which. And then there was Timmy. He was supposedly Waldo's son. The other company didn't want to mention the fact that he is adopted. He stuck by the prize corner, talking from time to time and doing random poses. Despite him having a more friendly and childish appearance, the kids were scared of him the most. They thought he was quite creepy, however, it didn't cause another incident unlike the previous diner. I think you remember. Those were all the newer redesigned characters. However, there were two that I purposely left out. Those will be left for last. Anyway, the diner opened up with huge success. They got so much more money than the previous one, and all the kids adored the animatronics. However, the child's mother wasn't so happy. For the sake of keeping this short, I will be calling her by her real name, Maya. She had a very troubled life, having severe depression during high school, and then divorcing her husband and keeping her child with herself. She was not very happy that Splinky Entertainment managed to make a comeback after what they did to her child, and she was willing to get revenge, even if she would get caught. One day, newspapers started being sent out to buy Splinky Entertainment, needing a night guard to work the night shift from 12 a.m. to 7 a.m. This was her chance to strike back and get revenge. However, I myself wasn't very fond of this. It's her fault that her own child wandered off at night, and it's also her fault for not taking good enough care of her own child. She was never a good person to. She applied with an alternate name so that they wouldn't recognize her, and surprisingly, she got hired. This made her slightly happy, as now she had her chance to take revenge. However, her plan was still far away. She still needed to save it for at least a week for her plan to actually work. However, until then, she had a different thing to do. That day, she went into the diner herself. She couldn't help but get filled with rage when she looked at literally anything in it. Still a property of those who killed her child, wasn't it? Anyway, she had a second plan to take revenge. When the diner was about to close on every day, she tricked the kids into the back room, thinking they forgot a prize of theirs. They entered, and once they were in there, Maya killed them and threw them into a trash can. This right here was her biggest sin that she will never recover from. Hell already had its gates open for her. The bodies were never found, as there was a prototype on the back and also had a horrible smell, so nothing was identifiable. This was one of her two ways of taking revenge, but little did she know that she had indirectly digged her own grave by murdering those children, or at least a grave that she didn't fall into. However, that is a story for another time. Everything will get much, much worse.